Welcome to Professor Game Podcast, where we interview successful practitioners of games, gamification, and game thinking who brings the best of their experiences to get ideas, insights, and inspiration that help us in the process of getting the students to learn what we teach. And I'm Rob Alvarez. I teach and work at IE Business School in Madrid, where we create interactive and engaging learning materials. Want to know more? Go to professorgame.com/subscribe, start on our email list, and ask me anything. So hello, engagers. Today we have, as always, a very special guest. This time we have Michael Matera. But before we introduce you, Michael, can you tell us if you are or not prepared to engage?
I am ready and excited to do it.
If you don't know Michael Matera, that's probably a very, very weird situation. But if you don't know him, he is an engaging, fun, and inspiring nationwide speaker and author, delivering keynotes, workshops, and small group professional development to teachers and administration. He's a practicing teacher as well, and he ignites both his classroom and professional development audiences with interactive play, passion, and purpose-driven learning. Doesn't that sound like super exciting to everybody? He also helps us all focus on finding the joy in the journey of life, both professionally as well as personally. He's also the host and creator of the Hive Summit, which we'll be talking about today. And as a gamification guru and moonshot thinker, Michael transforms the traditional classroom into a high-energy environment where active student engagement is paramount. He's an energetic trainer who broadly shares his research. I have to attest to that. I've seen a lot of his things, both in YouTube and social media and so on, and his teaching methods and technological applications for the advancement of everybody, of the learners, of the teachers, and the administrators. As a consultant, he works with educational institutions and businesses to define the needs and build solutions that inspire and lead to effective change. If we want to know more about Michael, we'll be talking about all of those places we can find him, but mainly, of course, is his website, Mr. Matera, so mrmatera.com. His podcast, which is fantastic and I definitely recommend, which is Well Played. I think I've listened to almost every single episode by now. Or you can also have a look at his YouTube channel and remember, of course, to connect. So, Michael, is there anything we missed from that intro?
I don't think so. You really covered it all there.
Fantastic. So, Michael, first thing, order of business, because many people will want to connect afterwards, and we'll repeat this. But where can we find information about you, about the Hive Summit, social media, and so on? Can you give us a quick glimpse of that?
All right. So for me, kind of the best access point there would be mrmatera.com, because there you can get links to the podcast, to some vlogs, to some blogs, to kind of countless other things, interviews that I've been on. So if you just want a ton of information, mrmatera.com would be a great one. As far as the Hive Summit, which I'm really excited to kind of dive into today and talk a little more about, the Hive Summit is hivesummit.org, and I would love it if everyone just sort of pause this right now, go over there, sign up, and then jump back in on this conversation. But I guarantee kind of by the end of this podcast, you're all going to want to do that.
I'm sure we will. If you haven't already, if you didn't already, press pause and go for that. I already did, actually. I did last year, so I was pretty early on that call to action.
Nice.
But let's dive right in, because and the first thing, and we talk a lot about motivation and engagement in gamification and game-based learning and so on. So I wanted to know what motivated you to create something like the Hive Summit.
For like at a risk of sounding a little cheesy here, a true goal of mine has been to really like affect change and change the world. I love that large goal. I had a friend who talked to me about setting goals, and I was saying the normal stuff, lose weight, run a little farther, whatever the case may be. And he said, no, you got to choose like a big goal. And I was like, well, why? Like, why does it have to be that big? And he said, you want to choose a big goal, not for like actually achieving the goal, but for what the process of like aiming towards and striving towards that goal will make of you. And ever since then, I was like, all right, then I'll just pick a really big goal. Like, I want to change the world. And he's sort of right. Like, you then start planning your day and doing things differently when that's your goal, when that's your aim. And the Hive Summit was just right in my wheelhouse. Like, I love professional development. I know there are so many people that aren't fortunate enough to be able to attend conferences, or some schools they can only attend like every other year, or they have to like rotate with departments. And there's just so much good professional development out there that unfortunately we don't have the resources to sort of allow everyone to go to. And so I thought, well, like I'm going to invest my time into building out the Hive Summit for people to kind of come together. And like I thought through this, like what would be the best theme for it. And I was like, well, I really want all these people to come together, and like I really want us to be connected and really feel like while these are our featured speakers, everyone in the Hive like is a valuable member, and everyone is doing this good work of like educating, whether it's kindergarten through college. So I went with this idea of like the Hive, like bringing bees together, worker bees together to kind of make something better.
So actually, the Hive is for all these worker bees, as you say, and I love the whole theme around the summit where you're talking about the bees and about the honey drops and many other things which we'll probably be getting into. So can you, again, we start getting into some details as well. Can you tell us like what the Hive Summit is all about? Like, I don't know, I'm sure you have some sort of pitch. I'm sure you've talked about this a million times, but let the engagers know what the Hive Summit is all about.
Sure. So the Hive Summit this is its second year, and hopefully we'll be doing them many more years. It's an online virtual conference. It's free for anyone to attend. They just have to go to hivesummit.org and kind of register there. And that's pretty simple. It's just your name and a few other things you throw in there and you submit. And then you're, you're put on basically an email list, which starting August 1st, the conference begins. And what happens is you'll get an email with today's or that day's video, which will be one of these 9 presenters that we have. And there'll be these excellent interviews with other ancillary resources on the speaker's page that you can, read other articles, connect to other media with them. But just a really good video for you to kind of watch, a nice interview that's really aimed at sort of giving you some practical things that you can kind of take and use in your classroom with your students. Sometimes there's always like one for administrators too. So like trying to inspire change at the top level. So I don't know. I think it's pretty awesome because it's, like I said, it's sort of free. And then each day we send you another one. So the day 2, you'll get one. And then after the 9 days, there won't be any more new content per se, but all the videos will sort of close on August 14th or on August 15th, I should say. And that's to sort of produce a little bit of this conference feel. Like there needs to be a little immediacy to sometimes move us towards action. So that's kind of the thought behind why it's just those 14 days. We typically do an encore presentation like a month later to give people access for those that discovered this late. So if you're hearing this past August 1st, sign up anyways, because you'll probably be part of that when that comes around.
And you'll certainly be part of the list of next year's, which will certainly be amazing as well.
That's true. So once you get in, then you're in. And throughout the year too, that's part of my email list, my general email list as well. So I don't spam it. I don't send too much, and I always try to make the content relevant to people. So being part of the Hive Summit will also put you on kind of my general email list, where I'll send a few things throughout the year that are always aimed at sort of improving our lives and improving our classrooms. Most of it centers around playful and joyful learning. A lot of times it's things from my YouTube channel too. So, watch out for those. And if you sign up now, like if you did pause the video or pause the podcast and you've come back and you're listening to this, one of the things you can look forward to is I'm doing these honey drops, and these honey drops are last year's videos kind of doled out as we sort of approach this year's conference. So if you missed last year, if you weren't able to attend, sign up now. You're going to get those honey drops where you can kind of watch some of those videos from last year.
Yes, I'm getting some of those because the funny thing is last year, I can't remember the exact dates, but I think it was like in August 4th. I left for vacations, which are the time when that happens here in Spain, and I came back like the 14th. So I was able to watch a few.
Well, that's funny. So then you were able with these honey drops to see last year's, and then now you're going to have some access to this year's, and then probably go on vacation again. But then you'll catch them in the honey drops next year.
Exactly, exactly. So there's a lot of exciting things going on there, and we've mentioned a bit about what the conference is about. Why are you doing it? Let's get into a bit more details and know who will be at the Hive Summit, both talking at the Hive Summit and explaining and giving some professional development, and who will be there like me, who will be just there finding out new things and new interesting things and developing myself further through the Hive Summit. Who are both the people who will be presenting and the people who will be attending?
All right, so really excited to sort of tackle that question. My favorite part of it is who will be attending. And so far, we're at about 13,000 people signed up for this year. And as we ramp up closer to it, uh, we get even more and more people. Like yesterday, we got 200 some people signed up. So I'm imagining as we get closer, this happened last year too. In the last month alone, I added like 5,000 people last year. So
Wow.
yeah, so like I'm hoping with things like this and other, social media I'm putting out there that like we get as many people as we can to the Hive because it truly like helps empower us all. Like the smartest person in the room is the room itself, and if we can get 20,000 people per se, like that's a pretty smart room. And what I love about the Hive Summit is we have so many opportunities for the room itself to interact and share out its positive ideas. And so really like my favorite is the people that are attending. But to answer the other side of the question, who are the speakers this year? Very excited. If you don't mind me taking a moment, I really want to like tell people how the process of selecting speakers works
Okay, that's cool.
for me. Every year I sit down. So a little backstory. I am the only person running the Hive Summit. So, well, sometimes people write me and think like, how does your committee decide that? And I'm like, there is no committee. And
You are
so
the committee.
I am the committee. So as a full-time teacher, who's got all of those trappings, I'm a single dad and also have the side hustle of trying to present around nationally and internationally around gamification and playful learning and some other things. Time's pretty tight. So what I do every year is I sit down and I really make a list of presenters I'd love to see. And I try really, really hard to hit all sorts of different categories. I want different topics, so
Of
in the
course.
gamification space, I know a ton of people in the gamification space. I could fill up Hive Summit with 9 presenters on gamification, easy peasy. But I got to remind myself, like that's not everybody's jam, that's not everybody's goal. So, all right, that would be kind of unfair and wouldn't be good. I try to like make sure we have like gender and ethnicity, and like I said, the topics. Being published through Dave Burgess, I also want to make sure it's not just like a Dave Burgess conference. Like it's not like I don't want like there are other publishers out there that are putting out wonderful materials. So I take great caution to try to make that as diverse as I can. Now here's the problem. Like I just told you, like I make my wish list, and all I can do is send out an email and ask, are these people willing to give up their time and their talents to be part of this? And that doesn't always that's not always met with a yes.
Of course.
Sometimes, sometimes there's no, sometimes there's like, yes, if we can fit it into this, or like, yes, if that, and again, it being only me, sometimes like I'm unable to like meet some of those requirements that they have. I don't make any money off this conference. So sometimes the requirement is that they get paid, and I'm like, I can't afford to pay you. So, so I sort of start with that wish list, send those off, and sometimes some of them say yes, sometimes they don't, and you just kind of keep going through this list until here's the big catch that I don't think everybody realizes. It, in some respects, it's when I send these out, I send them out to several people because some of them don't check their email every day, some don't respond, some never respond. So I can't just send out 9 and hope my 9 speakers say yes. I have to send out more. And so then it kind of comes down to like who responds back. And like this year, these were some of the ones that I really loved. Some of these are like totally like the ones I was super excited to get. And they're also some of the ones that like wrote back in sort of a timely fashion. We had several other speakers that I'm really excited about. I don't want to release, but who are already on for next year. Because I was like, oh, you were like, I so wanted you, but you didn't write back for like 6 weeks, so I couldn't put you on put you on this year. So super excited, but sometimes people don't realize that, and I just want to make sure like everybody knows I am so excited to have like diverse topics and content, and authorship and gender, race, everything. Uh, but there's that practicality too, that I'm the only one doing this in my fifth period prep period before like my kids come in. So
There's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on. So this year, to kind of run through the ones that we have that I'm super jazzed about, we got 9 presenters. I'll start with the boring one that you all probably already anticipated. That would be me. I'm going to be there. If I'm going to put all this together, I'm going to definitely be one of the 9. So we'll say like that's my one bonus, is I get to be attached to all of this. And
that's what you're taxing with.
yeah. So all right. So I'm in there. And I'm really excited to be there and, again, share my thoughts around playful learning and finding the joy in life. I think that's really important for our students as well as us teachers. We have Angela Myers. She is an amazing educator. I don't know if your audience knows of her or not, but super amazing speaker who's an author, entrepreneur, international keynote speaker. She really talks about sort of the value of like you mattering, like you have value, and like empowering us to understand that, so that we can go out and turn around and empower our students to have that sort of same idea. We have Casey Bell, who is an amazing innovator in terms of using technology in the classroom, and just is a powerhouse of ideas. She just puts out tons of ideas. Definitely a mailing list you guys should all join. Then we have CJ Reynolds. He is one of my favorite YouTube channels, and he does Real Rap with Reynolds. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
nope, I haven't.
Oh my, amazing educator, very good guy. Super excited to have him on, and sort of, I mean, he has a huge following. I'm sure tons of people know him, but anybody that doesn't know him, I'm very excited to have the Hive Summit help connect him with the people in the Hive. Then we have Ted Knightsky. Ted Knightsky is an administrator, like amazing human being. He does, he has a podcast himself and called the Smart Thinking Podcast. I would recommend that to anybody out there, administrator or otherwise. Always offering like definitely great suggestions, probing questions for you to think about. Just a really inspiring educator, and I'm proud to have Ted in the Hive Summit. Then we have another YouTube sort of person here, Michelle Ferrer, and her YouTube is Pocketful of Primary. She is obviously an all elementary sort of focus, but really like talks through like things you need to know as an elementary teacher, things about organization, things about like activities you could do with your students, and sometimes shares some of the like pressures and feelings she has. Just a really like positive voice in education, and it's super jazzed to have her at the summit. And then we have Lisa Johnson, aka the Classroom Chef. She is an author. She talks about all sorts of things. She has tech things she talks about. The focus of our discussion was a little bit more on sort of being positively productive and using your time wisely, and little like shortcuts you can take, and ways to like do goal setting. It's an awesome episode. I can't wait for hers to get released. Then we have Quinn Rollins. Quinn Rollins is probably somebody that might fit your audience the most, besides myself. And that's because Quinn talks about his books, Play Like a Pirate. And he's all about engaging students through the use of like toys, games, comics, all those kind of things. And just a fascinating character, and I'm super excited to share out his work. And then the last one, we have Dan Tricarico, and he is the author of Zen Teacher. And I think this is like just an awesome person to have at the summit, because I think the sort of mental health of our teachers is so important. So as we talk about these powerhouses that we're going to learn from, you can sometimes feel overwhelmed. Like I can't, like, oof, I can't do all of this, and there's no way I can get all this done in my classroom or whatever. And then we don't get moved to action. We don't get inspired because we kind of get deflated by putting these people up on like a pedestal. And I think Dan giving us this message about like taking care of ourselves, kind of a good sort of mental sort of strategy, kind of like running a marathon, right? It's not a sprint. Like we just got to kind of move forward. And I think that's going to be an awesome message to send to all of us to hopefully get us to take the steps towards action on all of these speakers, including himself.
Wow. 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 It sounds like a very, very exciting lineup because I know some of you in the audience are going to be looking more towards, as Michael mentioned, the Michael Matera himself and Quinn Rollins, which are more into the gamification and playfulness. However, I have seen that one of the main areas of development for people who are into gamification and any of the other consulting and so on is the learning area. That could be in schools, higher education, companies, and so on. And many of the things that will be spoken about here are precisely on that edge of education where anything that you actually learn from those people is going to be, I'm sure, very, very valuable for whatever you are doing right now, especially if you are somehow involved in the learning space. And again, I think most of the things that we do are involved in the learning space. And gamification and games in general are about learning things. That's one of the exciting things about a game, learning how to do something different. So again, I do think there's a very, very powerful edge there for each and every one of those speakers, Michael. So very, very exciting lineup. And
I can't wait.
talking about being excited, what has you the most excited about the Hive Summit? And I'm not going to ask you to pick a speaker, but that would be unfair. But what what has you excited about the Hive Summit in general? I think you've been talking a bit about that, but I want to make sure you get a chance to inspire us in that sense as well.
So again, kind of like going back to the fact that the thing that inspires me the most and the thing that I'm most excited about is really all of the people that come together in the Hive. And I think one of the things I loved and saw last year, and I didn't, I'll be honest, I crossed my fingers. I didn't know, what if you build a conference and no one comes? And
You build it and they will come.
that was the hope. And what I saw last year, which was so cool, is meaningful and powerful connections being formed. People tweeting throughout the day, people Instagramming throughout the day, people joining. We did a YouTube live, and just again, not always not just the speakers. The thing we want with Hive Summit is to empower all of us to like truly feel like armed with and equipped with the things we need to be successful, inspired to sort of change and try that new thing. But it can't just be inspiration. It's got to be like that call and that move towards action, and we have to take those steps. And what I saw last year was the people were genuinely like wanting to do that. It wasn't just passive learning. It was like they were learning with a cause, and it was so awesome to see. And so I'm really excited to see that happen again.
Wow, and I'm pretty sure that with a growing audience that you're having, both in the Hive and in general, as Michael Matera and the Well Played podcast and your YouTube channel, that's certainly going to be the case. But it's also going to be a challenge because the larger the audience, the more difficult to manage it gets. I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that? How do you do such a thing with a massive audience like 13,000 people?
So one of like when I set out to do this, there were at the time when I decided to do it, I only knew of one other virtual conference. I'm sure there are others, but in my space, in my world, at the time, the only person I had seen doing it was Matt Miller doing Ditch Summit. Matt is a friend of mine. I absolutely love Matt. In fact, I called Matt and asked for advice, like, hey, I want to do this. Matt was so giving and willing to sort of walk me through some of the pitfalls and some of the things I want to look out for, and also like some of the things I want to make sure I do. And since then, they're like in between Matt's and mine, there were a few others that sort of cropped up. And one of the things I set out to do with my conference after talking to Matt is I didn't want it to be just a straight repeat of the others. And like you said, that's really hard to do because ultimately we're all here to learn. So you have to have like the videos for the learning. And it's a digital conference with thousands of people. Like, how do you make it, I don't know, feel more personal at the same time? And so that was kind of my goal. So I tried to do some things that Matt doesn't do, and these other conferences don't do. And I set out to try to like have those sort of meaningful, connected moments. And one way that we did that was one of the speakers last year taught us how to do sketchnoting. So alongside with that, I really like encourage people to like sketch out their thoughts, share those out on Twitter, and then like connect based on that. And there were a lot of people that had feedback that was like, oh, like that was awesome that like we got to like share and kind of interact. And a lot of the speakers then like wrote back to those people. So then there was like that kind of interaction. Last year we did, like I said, a YouTube live where people could like interact. I thought that was kind of a nice connected way. And this year I just sent out in the last Honey Drop a survey where I asked people like, that is my goal. My goal is to try to make this a community where we're all together and that can feel more connected. And the survey results, it was kind of fun. The questions that I said, I want to add something. I want to do either live tweeting where we're all going to hit play on the button. Not all of us, but I will have some scheduled events where like people that want to can hit play at the same time on that day and then kind of tweet as if we were all in the same like room to kind of bring people together. And then the other one was more live YouTubes where we could kind of like just discuss general education topics, the video of the day. And another one was a trivia game that would kind of overarch the whole thing. I put in there a game night if people wanted to do a game night. And then the other one I put in there was busy recipes for busy bees. So this would be like a little like, so right, like
very themed as well.
Yeah, but kind of like tangential, like not just, not just teaching you digital tools for your classroom, not just those kind of things. All of those, the five I just listed, all center around connecting with people, right? Because like from game night, you're going to play with each other. Trivia, we're going to play with each other. The tweeting and the YouTube has us coming together to like discuss and be in dialogue and connected with each other. And then the cooking, call me old school, but I think that like such fellowship happens over the dining room table. And while I cannot sit down and eat with all 13,000 people, I wish I could. That would be really awesome. But sharing out like recipes and my hope is you share those out, that some people try it, some people like tweet out about it, some people tweet about the fellowship they had around that cooking table or that dining room table and the fun they had cooking together. All of these are just these little like nuances to sort of make us feel connected, make us all feel part of the Hive. So those are some of the things that I'm like excited that's new this year that can hopefully connect with people.
Just a quick break before we continue. Are you enjoying this podcast? If you're listening through a podcasting app, please subscribe and rate us on the app. This will be of great help to reach more engagers so we can change the world together through gamification. Now we're talking a lot about gamification, and it's certainly one of your areas of expertise, Michael. Will the Hive Summit have any gamification, or will it be gamified?
Sort of. I have two things here that I'm kind of excited about. One, I'll start with the gamified. Gamified, what we're going to do is last year we had a breakout that existed throughout the whole conference. So each video had kind of a breakout clue either in the video or on the speaker page. And after you sort of unlocked all these clues, you broke out of the Hive was the sort of theme. And we're definitely going to do that again. We're going to have another awesome breakout game that's going to exist over the whole thing. And then as I just mentioned, sort of two other ideas that we're adding this year, we're going to add trivia, I believe, is going to happen. Again, this being a one-man show, I got to make sure I can get all this done in time with the editing of the videos and the promotional materials and these other things. But I believe we were going to have trivia go throughout, and there's going to be like a leaderboard, and you're going to be able to see like who's in the lead on that, and that's kind of neat. And there's going to be some other game mechanics that go around with the trivia. And then lastly, this is more just playful, but we are going to do at least one game night. I have selected two different games that can work with unlimited number of people. So,
wow.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. I wrote these companies and said, "Are you sure I can do this?" They said, "Yeah, that would be awesome because that's exposure for their game.
Yeah.
But you guys don't need the game per se. You're just going to have a piece of paper and some one of them you'd have to print something out, but you could do it digitally. I haven't decided which one I'm going to do, but needless to say, kind of cool that if a couple hundred people wanted to participate in game night, we could do that.
Wow, that sounds really, really exciting. Michael, is there anything else you'd like to say about the conference before we take off and go for our random question of this week?
I really just want to invite everyone. This conference is for everyone. And as you pointed out, you can either cherry pick certain presenters that you want to see and just listen to them, or bop into sort of all of them, or, challenge yourself, try some that you didn't think. Last year, actually, on this very topic of gamification itself, I had plenty of people that watched it because who had no interest in gamification. In fact, they were like, I thought gamification was just playing video games. When I see it at other conferences, they say that like, I don't go to those sessions because I'd rather learn something else. But at this, because it doesn't bump up against anything else, you just have to hit play on the video. They watched it, and then much to their surprise, gamification is so much more than that. And so I guess I challenge this community who is highly attuned to what gamification is. It might be worth our time to cross pollinate and learn some other ideas and click play on a few videos that just might surprise you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Michael, we are going to jump into this random question from the audience. I did want to take the chance, and I want to commit you to coming back to Professor Game at some point in the future and have the regular questions, because we do want to know what your day looks like, what has been your favorite failure, and many other things that we ask to most of our guests. But today we have a random question from the audience. So this is from Diana Lynn Perkins. And she says that she's an
Ooh, I
educator.
love Diana Lynn.
You know her.
I know her.
There you go. So
that's awesome.
She sent this question, and it came out randomly before the interview. I wanted to make sure we had a question for today. And she's saying, as you know, she's an educator. She has gamified her class, and now she has gamified professional learning for teachers. And it seems she's starting out strong with a very good narrative, but then it dies away along the way. What are some ways to keep the narrative going and strong throughout an extended game? So, Diana Lynn, the perfect person to answer this question, is here, and he knows you. So let's hear that, Michael. What do you think?
Well, first, hello, Diana. It's awesome to help you out here on this podcast. But to answer your question, or everybody's question on this, because that's a big challenge that a lot of people have. How do you keep that theme? How do you keep that excitement going throughout the year? And I'm going to give a few quick examples, but my first one, which may sound like a cop-out, but it isn't, like one of the best things you can do for anything that you're like a little nervous about, a little like outside your grasp, a little like, I don't know. The number one thing you can do is actually double down on it. Be extra confident. So when you probably rolled it out, you were very excited about your theme. You told all the staff about your theme. And what did the staff do? Probably the staff was like, like whatever. Like, I'm an adult. We don't need to be on this pirate adventure or whatever the theme is that you chose. And then you backed away. Like, that's the moment you need to actually like lean in and do it more, because there are people in that room that are still probably going to be more excited about this. But they need to know that this is a thing and we're going to do it. And like you're giving the room permission to sort of fall in love with this idea and be excited about it. So like, be confident. And that goes for other educators as well. When you kind of are like, well, I started off and we're on this space theme, we're on this spaceship, but then things got busy and I didn't do it. And then the kids didn't seem to mind that we weren't doing it. So I just never brought it back. Like, you've missed the boat. Though there are like kids or teachers who want to do this, but they need you to sort of step up.
They were waiting for you to step up, actually.
Yeah. So, I think like that, like I said, that may seem like a cop out because it's not like a 3-step program or something like that. but I truly believe like that's what they need, both the students and the teachers. Like they need you to sort of lean in and be like, yeah, we're doing this. We're on a space adventure. Make sure you continue to use the same language when you fire off those emails and you say like, aha, like up for grabs this week is an oxygen tank, and then define what that is. Continue to stay within that theme, even when other people try to respond back. Like we're moving into my second tip for you. Language matters. Language so matters in a gamified classroom, and it might even matter more in a gamified like staff setting. So when that staff tries to write you back, like let's say the oxygen tanks, boom, you're going to say in your gamified PD, let's like that team have a little extra time to finish their challenges or whatever. And some teacher writes back like, hey, we want to use the item that lets us use more time. Right back with like, no problem, you can use the oxygen tanks. Like continue to sort of correct, just like I did there. You're not like calling them out. You're not like making them feel bad, but continue to use that language, because what happens over time, your language becomes their language. And then all of a sudden, with a little sleight of hand, the game exists.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that applies to so many things, Michael. I think that's a fantastic advice. Absolutely fantastic.
So those are my big ones that I would say to Diana Lynn, like do that as best you can. And then kind of I guess a more practical one would just be when you feel like it's falling flat, like if you're noticing that as the game designer, whether again this is your classroom or whether this is your school for Diana Lynn, you're noticing something as a game designer. So that's like, don't look at that as defeat. Look at that as this is the moment a game designer needs to have a little shot in the arm and like say we're gonna do some sort of battle, some sort of activity, and that's where you go home and you think like let's do some cool like team Twitter photograph challenge. And so then all of a sudden all the teams just have to take like photos with themselves or like whatever, do a selfie challenge or whatever, something simple, something light that can re-energize the population and bring back sort of that excitement.
Absolutely. I think those advices are, I wouldn't try to bring them down in any way, because if I saying something on top of that would probably just break a bit of the advice. So thank you very much for that advice, Michael. I'm sure Diana Lynn will thank you very much for all of that. Once again, let us know, because those who didn't register for the Hive Summit will probably be thinking of going back, but maybe it's easier if we just say it here again. Where can we find the Hive Summit? Where can we find Michael? And then we'll say, of course, that it's game over.
Yeah. So where you can find the Hive Summit is hivesummit.org. Sign up. It's free. It takes you like 2 seconds to sign up. You'll get those honey drops. And then, of course, you'll get into the event come August 1st. Those things will get sent to you. If you want to connect with me, probably the best place to do that is mrmatera.com. So it's just mrmatera.com. And there you can find links to my podcast, to my YouTube channel. I would love it if you guys subscribe to those things and join those things and listen to those things. All of them are wonderful communities filled with wonderful people.
I have to say yes and yes. Those are part of the things I'm into. I'm not as much into YouTube as many of you probably are. I haven't checked your YouTube out as much as I have checked out your podcast and so many of your materials. So big call to action, go to thehivesummit.org, register for the Hive Summit. You would lose absolutely nothing. It's risk-free, absolutely. If you don't want to receive the emails, I'm sure there's a button to say, I don't want to get any more emails, which would be the highest risk. So just go ahead, register, see what's going on in there, find out new things. I'm sure you'll learn many, many things. And if only one thing you learned from that, well, I'm sure it's worth it. So once again, thank you, Michael, for being today with us. We'll be talking again soon. But for now, it's time to say that it's game over. Hey, Engagers. Thank you for listening to Professor Game Podcast. And I hope you enjoyed this episode with Michael Matera. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask future guests? Well, then all you need to do is go to professorgame.com and ask your question. If it is selected, it will come up in a future episode, and just like Diana Lynn Perkins did, you will get your answer. And before you go on to your next mission, would you like to know how Lauren Farrow is getting into her research for players? Then subscribe using your favorite podcast app and listen to the next episode of Professor Game. See you there.